Well, it's finally time to rank all 5 Phantasm movies. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm ranking all 5 Phantasm movies from worst to best. A franchise I've been meaning to get to. I finally got around to rewatching all 5 movies. Kind of a bit of a fever dream type franchise, if you know what I mean. If you've seen them, you know what I mean. It's it gets pretty wacky as these movies go on, but we're going to get into it. Just make sure you drop your ranking of all 5 of these movies down in the comment section. We'll have a great discussion, and also like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on anything in the future. Without wasting any more time, let's rank them. So for me, easily coming in the last place at number 5 is Phantasm Ravager. Part 5. It's no secret, this is the worst. Most people have this in last place in their rankings. It just feels so cheap. It feels like you're watching a fan film on YouTube, not an actual franchise movie. That's how bad it looks. Terrible production. I mean, you got the spheres going around killing people, and they're CGI this time around. Looks god awful, as well as when like blood and stuff squirts, it's all CGI. So kind of hate that when this franchise had such good effects in the second and third movie. And they also decide to wrap this franchise up by having Reggie have dementia, and this being all in his head, where 5 movies in, it's not exactly the way you want to wrap up your franchise. It's kind of lame. While it does work, I mean, it would work if it was all in his head, because a lot of the things that happen in these movies don't make a lot of sense. But at the same time, yeah, it's not what I want for my... it's not a very satisfying conclusion to this story, I should say. Even though when you're dealing with dementia, I actually like the themes that it deals with, like how it feels like you're jumping from dimension to dimension, like you're in the desert, then you're in the city. That's what's happening to Reggie. So, and that's what happens to people who are suffering from dementia. You know, they don't know where they are half the time or what time period. So the time traveling, the dimensions, all that stuff seems to make more sense. And the tall man can be seen as kind of like the Grim Reaper. You know, he comes for you when it's time to die, and you know you're losing all your loved ones around you throughout your life and everything. So yeah, the themes of dementia and that work really well with this franchise, but again, it's just a very lame way to wrap up this story. And aside from that, the movie doesn't offer a whole lot new, especially in the kills department. Like I said, it's just these spheres once again going around, drilling in the people and stuff. We've seen it all before, and we've seen it much better than this before. Up next at number 4, I'm going with Phantasm IV, Oblivion. I would say this is the most boring, the most dull movie in the franchise. Ravager is definitely the worst, but this one can seem to drag on. But it does have a few positives. One being that it does give you a few more answers that we were finally looking for. Like, I'm always waiting for them to explain stuff, and it never really seems to happen in here. But here we get to see the tall man's backstory, how he became the tall man, how he invented these portal-like things, and how we got these different dimensions, how time can be altered. All that's explained in here, and it is kind of refreshing to get some answers. We also learned that Mike is kind of being groomed, being set up to be another tall man, and he has his own powers. Like, he can move things with his mind. He can create portals, much like the tall man. So I thought that was really interesting. And when we're talking about Reggie, I mean, he doesn't get a whole lot to do in this movie, even though he's in it a lot. Like, he's just basically traveling from town to town. The same shit he's been doing the last few movies. We do get one cool scene with him and a girl he picked up where in the morning she's making weird like squishy noises out of her chest, and then 2 of the metal spheres like come out of her tits. Kind of funny, kind of cool, but aside from that, nothing else that's really interesting with the Reggie character for the entire movie until the very end, until he meets up with Mike. Oh, and one more thing I want to add. I thought it was pretty cool that they got to splice in a bunch of deleted footage that they had from the original movie and splice it into this 4th movie. Just kind of cool to see, you know, these characters back younger again and everything. At times, it can feel like it's a little bit of filler to pad out the runtime because it's a shorter movie. but I can really appreciate those scenes. So while I do appreciate a lot of the answers this movie gives me, it is kind of dull, kind of boring, lacks action, lacks something new in terms of the kills and that. Again, it's just the spheres going around, killing people once again. So yeah, it's not a great movie, but it's a bit better than Ravager, that's for sure. Coming up next at number 3, I'm going with Phantasm III. Lord of the Dead, I believe is the alternate title. Yeah, an okay entry. I find I get mixed up with this one and part 2 in terms of the story, because there's like a lot going on in the two of them, a lot of changes happening, and a lot of the same things kind of happening in the two of these movies. But I do like part 3 for adding in some humor in here. The tone's a little bit different than before. We get new characters, one of them being a kid, and it's a lot of fun when you first meet him because he has his house all booby trapped like Home Alone, and he takes out these people trying to rob him. It's a lot of fun, and he kind of joins Reggie. Also, they run into this girl named Rocky, who's kind of a badass, and we got a lot of funny scenes between her and Reggie, where Reggie's trying to sleep with her the whole time, and she ain't having it. And yeah, there's a lot of humor, added humor in here, which I think really works. And they actually change actors. Mike was a different actor in part 2. They bring back the original kid actor as an adult in this one, and in 4 and 5 as well. And I actually prefer the random guy from part 2. I thought he did a better job as adult Mike. Young Mike, I don't know. He's okay as an adult, but not my favorite. You get used to them as the movies go along, but it is a little bit jarring when he's recasted here in this third movie. I find it really weird how they bring back Jody in this one, but like as a sphere, and he can like be a person and go back to his sphere, and it's just weird. And I don't like the idea that they put brains in the spheres and everything. I thought that's kind of dumb. They should have just left the spheres as this crazy security system that protects the tall man and stuff. Because I'm not a fan of this new direction they're going into with Jody and everything, and it doesn't make much sense. Jody just shows up when he pleases, and yeah, it doesn't add a whole lot to the story, I find. But at the end of the day, this is still a pretty fun entry because of the new characters they bring in, the team up with Reggie. I think they're all really fun to watch, and the movie definitely is entertaining despite its problems. Coming up next at number 2, I'm going with Phantasm II. I know this is the fan favorite. Most people prefer this movie in the franchise. To me, I just prefer part 1, obviously, but I'll get into that when we get there. This movie, it kind of retcons part 1's ending a little bit, where everything was trauma and that in the first movie. This one, it's like, no, it was all real, and everybody's just oblivious to everything happening around them. And it's like, to me, it's a little ridiculous how they go town to town, and all the small towns are getting abandoned, and the graveyards are getting emptied, but no one really seems to notice what's going on, for the most part anyway. Like, where's the army? Where's the government? It seems like they only get mentioned and involved in the 5th movie, which is kind of ridiculous to me. They kind of make it seem like, well, everybody's just in the Matrix, basically. They're not realizing, they're not aware of their surroundings, and only certain people that are chosen can see what's really going on. But I don't know, it's just kind of weird. To me, I personally like to think that this is still all part of Mike's trauma from, losing family members. That's just a personal thing. But I get that's not what the movie's going for. But one thing this movie does do right is its friggin' effects. The kills are friggin' insane in here. The sphere kills, they really stepped it up from the first movie. They're like chopping off body parts. You get one of the tall man's henchmen, his hand gets stuck to the wall with one. You have to cut it off. Eventually the sphere goes in him and like going around his body and tries to come out of his mouth, but it can't because of all the spikes are coming out everywhere. It's gnarly. This movie easily has the best effects of the entire franchise. It's really going with the 80s. The 80s were a time where effects were at the top of their game, with The Thing and everything. And this movie's no different. There's even a few sections that remind me of A Nightmare on Elm Street, where they go into a town and they see that girl, but it's really just an apparition of the tall man. He comes out of her back and it's like this cool puppetry. Anyway, it's just such good effects all around. And like I said, they recasted Mike in here, but I actually really prefer this actor. I think he does a great job. And they start to make Reggie a badass in this movie. They're slowly doing it. They're giving him two shotguns attached to each other. You know, he's kind of becoming Ash from Evil Dead. And as the movies go on, he kind of becomes more of a badass. In his head, anyway. Not so much with the ladies and the people he runs into. One thing I'm not a big fan of is the added side plot of this girl who's a psychic or whatever, and she has a connection with Mike, and they're both trying to work together to fight the tall man at the end. I'm just like, where did this girl come from? I don't know, her character doesn't really make much sense and doesn't make much of an impact in the franchise, because at the starting of part 3, she's already dead, so really doesn't add much or amount to much in this franchise. So I'm not a big fan of her whole side plot. I wish they would have focused more on Mike and Reggie and the gang. And at the end of the day, a very entertaining sequel. I can see why a lot of the fans really love it. It moves faster than the original, got better effects, more action packed, that's for sure. And you get more Tall Man and more of his crazy shenanigans. Like I said, I'm just not a fan of some of the subplots going on here, and it kind of undoing the ending of the first movie. But for me, coming in the first place in this franchise is easily Phantasm, the original movie from the 70s. This movie, it is a bit of a slower burn. It doesn't move that quickly, but the payoff is just so good, and I love rewatching this movie, especially knowing the twist at the end. When you rewatch it, I find it makes the movie even better. You pick out different things. There's a lot of foreshadowing that happens, and it's just, the movie's set up really nicely to give you that nice payoff at the end. For example, like obviously they mentioned at the end this was all in Mike's head. He had a bad dream. He's still traumatized from losing his brother Jody in a car accident. And throughout the film, with him and Jody is always trying to get away from Mike, and he's going to leave town and leave Mike behind. It all makes sense once you realize Jody's dead, and this is just the way that Mike's coping with the situation in his head. And I love that. And again, when you rewatch this, you pick up on so many little things. And also, if this is a dream, it makes the movie make so much more sense. With a lot of the character decisions in here is kind of weird and odd. And just everything in the movie, you're just like, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that's why we have a random friggin' guitar scene with Reggie and Jody just randomly playing on the deck, playing guitar. And it's a very bizarre movie, but again, the twist at the end just makes it make more sense to me. The way the movie mixes supernatural and sci-fi is really unique and different. Never seen that too much in horror, not done like this anyway. And yeah, the tall man, his background is just so good, so rich, so unique. The tall man is threatening on his own, just boy, and just his presence is pretty scary, especially to a kid. And yeah, how he's taking people, squashing them down, and sending them through this portal to be on another planet where there's different atmosphere and stuff, to be slaves is just, it's just so cool. It's like, how do you even think of this stuff? And I feel like all that mythology is kind of lessened in the sequels. It's less about him making slaves and that, and just them running around chasing the tall man and stuff, you know? But yeah, this first movie, they did it right. It's just so cool. And you also got all the people he's turning into these dwarfs, and they got messed up faces in that, and they're in barrels. It's just, like I said, such an original story that I absolutely love. Like I said, it moves at a bit of a slower pace, but they make up for that with its atmosphere. Really creepy atmosphere in this. It's the darkest tone and creepiest atmosphere of this entire franchise, and the score, the musical score, definitely adds to that as well. It has a little bit of a Halloween vibe to it, but it fits the movie perfectly. So I absolutely love this movie. I think it's friggin' awesome. It's definitely not going to be for everybody. It's very surreal and kind of feels like a fever dream at the end of the day, but that's another reason why I appreciate it. So Phantasm, the original, is easily first place in my ranking. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 5 Phantasm movies. Hope you enjoyed it. Yes, I'm going from the original to the newest. That's just how this franchise works for me, even though a lot of people seem to love part 2. And I get it. I get why it's loved. Great action, great effects in there, very 80s. So definitely understand why there's fans of that one. It's a franchise that I always have questions about. I always go online, do research after I watch them. I understand the story with the dimensions and everything, but it's still so convoluted and confusing the way it's presented. And it's very fantasy and dreamlike, you know, so you never really know what's real, what's not. So it can get a bit confusing. And even to this day, after rewatching these movies several times and doing tons of research, I still tend to have like questions about certain things that happen. But that's kind of the beauty of the franchise. On one side, at their side, it's kind of the bad part. It's good and bad, I guess. So make sure you let me know how you rank this franchise down in the comments. Let me know what's your favorite, what's your least favorite. You can follow me on Letterboxd. Links to that is always in the description of my videos, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on more. And until next time, thanks for watching.